Let's start our Wednesday class, and this is a continuation of uh, those short repos, six enemies, but enemies for whom? A person who is on the path of spirituality, a person who wants to become better, a person who wants to attain this ultimate goal. So we've been talking about calm, then we talked about krodh, anger, then last week we talked about lobh, the greed. So today we are going to talk about mad. Mad. Mad means ego also. It means pride also. When we talk about pride, as an aspirant, we must have a certain sattvic pride in order to succeed in sadhana. That's how we know how to handle the practical realities effectively. You should be proud of being born in a human embodiment, proud of following the path of spirituality, proud that you have the inner resources to progress so that you can lead towards liberation. So this is a sattvic ego. Ego is part of the prakriti. Anything in the prakriti can be tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic. See, just like a body, if the body is healthy, it's a sattvic body. Mind, which is calm and clean, that's a sattvic mind. So the same way the ego, the pride, is filled with these qualities, that's a sattvic, and we need sattvic ego. These are called the values in the process of evolution. However, there are rajasic and tamasic forms of pride also. And those tamasic and rajasic forms of pride is called mad. And that we must quell day by day with great zeal. Because this is egoism, the tamasic and rajasic pride. It is called conceit, vanity, arrogance, insolence, cruelty, and even selfishness. All these are the members of the family of Mad or the relatives of Mad. The Sanskrit word Mad is quite similar to the Sanskrit word Madira, which means intoxicating liquor. As we all know, people under the influence of intoxicating liquor lose their mental balance and their power of reasoning. The same way the pride makes your mind so intoxicated that you don't know who you are, what is your goal, what is right and what is wrong. You might be familiar with this story. King Akbar, a great king in India during the 16th century, had a very witty minister named Birbal. I'm sure we all grew with the stories of Akbar and Birbal. Birbal, he was very wise, but he had many enemies among the court officers because he was always favored by the king. One day, these officers thought upon a plan to degrade Birbal. They started spreading the idea that the king was like God. They knew that Birbal would not agree to that. And they thought that if Birbal did not agree to it, king would punish him. Because every king wants to be praised and could not bear anyone who would not praise him. So the officers started bowing to the king, saying, "O king, to us, you are God himself. But Birbal doesn't think so. King Akbar was very pleased with the praises, but he looked at Birbal. He said, "How is it that you don't agree with what other officers are saying? Don't you have any reference for me?" Birbal replied, "Why should I agree with these people? I consider you greater than God." "How so?" asked Akbar. Birbal replied, "If someone commits an error, God cannot drive him out of his kingdom, because his kingdom includes the entire universe. However, if someone commits an error in your kingdom, you have the power to drive him out. Therefore, you are above God." So, the subtle implication of this story is that when you have ego, you place yourself above God. Even though the things around you are controlled by God's plan, but ego becomes overly active, assertive, makes you feel as if you are moving the world. Opposite of ego is humility. Humility is a divine virtue which is the positive counterpart of pride or mad. It is the expression of the evolving soul, a soul that is winging its way to the divine self. Humility, humility implies that ego is turning its color, it's becoming pure. But it is attained by an individual in gradual degrees. When the mind is highly fulfilled, without the presence of the unconscious vasanas, and vasanas, you know, those are the subtle desires in our chitta, ego is transcended. What happens is that ego starts to feel the unity with the divine self. That is a state of perfection. It almost feels like there's an absence of ego, and it's a spontaneous blossoming of supreme humility. So that's why ego or arrogance on one hand and humility on the other hand. One is the enemy of an aspirant, the other one is a virtue, humility. That's why Lord Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." The meekness referred here is profoundly different from the meekness of common language, common person. It is not to be confused with the dullness of mind that leads a person to simply accept without questioning whatever the world presents before him. Nor is it at all like the degrading timidity that leaves many people feeling humiliated again and again in life. The blessed meekness praised by Lord Jesus is that yogic state of advanced personality integration. In this kind of integration, you are tuned in with cosmic will. And there's no need to assert your personal ego. You feel that you are guided by this divine hand. It's a will of God with a total surrender. This is the innocent meekness which Jesus is talking about. And that's why he said, "Sheep driven by the great shepherd God, the divine self." The highest state of meekness is reached when a devotee is able to totally cast his ego center into the ocean of divine self. This happens when the intuition arises. And then outcome of that is realization of God. And this is all achieved through a mind which sees the very ego center as merely a tool. It's only a reflection of that self, not the absolute reality. But in the lesser stages of spiritual development, because it's not just here and there right away, there are stages. In the lesser stages of spiritual development, ego center seems to be all that one has. And a person is constantly trying to assert the ego. But as you reflect deeply and inquire into who am I? And that's what we do when we do meditation. Who am I? You gradually realize the illusoriness of the perception of ego and the vanity involved in being a slave to the egotistic consciousness. And eventually you understand that ego is not that important, which it appeared to be in earlier stages. And the tension which you were feeling due to egotistic illusions, they gradually subside. And a person who has developed such kind of a meekness of spirit enjoys a unique type of relaxation and experiences a joy that excels ordinary kinds of pleasures, ordinary kinds of happiness. And this kind of a joy is termed bliss. Arrogant person cannot feel this bliss. This bliss can be experienced only when you transcend the ego. Because this aspirant's mind is no longer under the grip of selfishness, no longer tarnished by the impressions of the frustrations, sorrows. Because frustration and the sorrows accompany egotistic consciousness. You see your radiant mind, healthy mind, and it becomes that kind of a mind becomes a basis for intense creative activity. You are doing good for yourself and you are doing good for many people with that kind of a mind. And benefits of this kind of a mind, a humble mind, because this kind of a mind is a form of divine energy. It is necessary to have this kind of a mind. The energy you feel, which is not your egotistic energy, it's a divine energy. And if you use this energy properly, and you are keeping your mind relaxed, cheerful day by day, then nature flows through your mind and creating wonders also. That's what you will see. You begin to think powerful thoughts that you would have never imagined possible. You begin to enjoy highly sublime feeling and sentiments. So all this comes by dissolving the ego, Rajasic and Tamasic ego, not by strengthening the Rajasic or Tamasic ego. Through that mind, you begin to discover what is really meant by universal love and non-violence. Otherwise, these are just words, but you really know the meaning. That mind becomes truly healthy and serves as a source of immense inspiration for yourself and others. When you acquire a mind such as that, you become the master of all. Master of all circumstances, all conditions and developments, even in this material world around you. That's why yogis, they gave the simile of this kind of a mind like a lotus. Like a lotus, you bloom above all the conditions of the life. You remain untouched by them. Or they even say, like a swan, you support in the lake of the world. You can shake your wings, throw off all the water particles, fly away. That's how a yogi lives. So when true meekness arises, you attain dominion over the material world. The world of matter does not matter anymore. You triumph over Maya. This world of matter is what? Maya, cosmic illusion. It's no longer will be tempted. The abundance of the earth is for the desireless, not for the man with desires. That's what we learned when we talked about calm, the desires. When a person approaches the objects of the world with desire, what happens? He becomes a slave to them. The objects, they begin to overpower the person, and it becomes impossible for him to possess them in the true sense. So that's why desires create slavery to the objects of the world, and a slavish mentality degrades the person. So that's how all of this, whether you are talking about the calm or the krodh or the lobh or the ego, they are all connected. It's like a chain. All these enemies, they come in groups. One enters, the others follow. But in the state of true meekness, the jiva submits itself to God alone, not to the world, but to the God. It is not tied to the objects through the strings of desires. And that's how it recovers its mastery over the earth or earthly objects. It rules matter. It commands circumstances. It acquires a supreme victory that echoes with an immeasurable sense of inner triumph. That's why I said, he who is humbler than a blade of grass and yet more enduring than a tree, he who gives respect to those who lack it, he is ever immersed in singing the praises of the Lord at all times. There is a Sanskrit saying, Trinadapi sunichen trorapi sahishnu amamin manadena kirtaniye sadahari. There are three things in there. If you want to let go of the ego, acquire this kind of a meekness, consider yourself to be more insignificant than a blade of grass. Trin means a blade of grass. Trinadapi sonachane. Consider yourself to be more insignificant than a blade of grass and become more tolerant than a tree. You throw at the tree, which is full of the fruit, what do you get in return? Fruits. Tolerant than a tree. Give respect to others, but do not seek respect for yourself. Amanin manaden. And the third thing this Rishi is saying, always chant God's name, Kirtaniye Sadhari. So if you want to conquer this enemy, which is called the mad or the ego or arrogance, whatever name you want to give, these are the three qualities we need to cultivate. So these words of the great rishis, they describe the characteristic of a great aspirant. The people who have this kind of a humility, utter humility, and a powerful endurance, just like this rishi is saying, as a blade of grass bends willingly without complaint beneath the feet of those who walk upon them. A man of true weakness submits himself joyfully to the unfoldment of the divine will. It's not that this person is becoming a doormat to the general population. It's like a divine will. A person of true meekness radiates, radiates a spontaneous tolerance and endurance under all circumstances. So these are the benefits of becoming meek. A person of true humility ever delights in making other people feel happy. Otherwise, most of us are always concerned, how can I become happy? But when we are concerned about making others happy, you have to become a meek. And a person makes the other people feel more contented, santoshi, because of the spiritual strength that flows to him from within his own heart. That's where that power is coming from. He does not seek to draw from others any consolation or sustenance or praise for himself. What he does is spontaneously showers others with honor, support, and encouragement. One who has reached great spiritual heights experiences such an extraordinary, overpowering sense of internal expansion that ego spontaneously loses all its importance. Spontaneously it happens. As you go up, you will see that how insignificant that was. His mind then flows spontaneously to God at all times. There's a saying in Sanskrit, Namanti falani vrikshaha. I'm sure you have all heard that. A tree that is laden with fruit bows down. The implication of this saying is that when prosperity comes to you, when you are endowed with the blessings of life, humility should develop. It's like if it does not, if humility has not come and you are prosperous, worldly prosperous, but you are arrogant, it's almost like tasting the food which has a deadly poison in it. One who is truly humble and prosperous becomes a flawless instrument in divine hands. He doesn't even want any credit. There are miracles are being performed, but the person who is meek, truly meek, he will not like to take the credit because other people might say, how great is this work that you have done? This kind of a person will never assert on that. That is a blessed state of humility or meekness. Because there's an overflowing sense of fulfillment. Mind has expanded. He knows that it's not his ego, but the divine will that is working through him produces great wonders. For vast majority of the people, ego is the identity. Ego means identification with the body or accomplishments, degrees, names, family, all those connections. So that's why I said for the vast majority of the people, ego is the identity. Relaxation of ego is achieved only during sleep for majority of us. When ego is set aside not by one's choice, but by an unconscious biological process when we are sleeping. But when you are moving from normal to supernormal awareness, with the help of this development, you begin to discover that ego is not the source of your inspiration and your initiative. In reality, you are different from your ego. So as this understanding grows, you learn to set aside the ego by your own choice, not just only during sleep, during the daytime also. You can put the ego at its place. This is through increasing intuitional understanding. The art of becoming free of ego is indeed the subtlest art, because ego is the very subtle part of our personality. We know the body, physical body, we know the mind also, intellect also. Ego is very subtle. So that's why I said it's a very subtlest art, but it is acquired through a persistent process of personality integration, by which you bring renewed health to your body, to your conscious and unconscious mind. So if you develop this art, learn this art, work on this art, you will get the benefit of the healthy body, a calm mind, and non-identification with the ego also. You all know that if you have a physically healthy body, it is possible for you to detach from the body. When the body becomes sick, then we are keep on thinking about the body. Otherwise, if there's no pain, there's no stiffness, body is healthy, we can detach from it. And you also know that if you're mentally healthy and serene, then it's possible for you to detach yourself from the mind. If there's no frustration, if there's no sorrow, calm and healthy mind, you can just let the mind be where it is. You're not worried about the mind. So healthy body, you can detach from the body. Healthy mind, you can detach from the mind. How do we detach from the ego? Because that's why I said this is the subtlest of the art. If your unconscious is not pressured by impure subtle desires, so that means that you have to dig deeper into your unconscious and the subconscious. The desires over there, desires reside there. And these subtle desires are called vasanas. We need to look at that. So something subtle we need to do, we got to do it for a longer period of time also, and with a greater force also. So if your unconscious is not pressured by impure subtle desires, only then it is possible for you to go beyond your ego. So in order to attain that godhood, liberation, mukti, moksha, this is needed. As you balance yourself by right action, devotion, meditation, reflection, and of course, satsang, good association, you begin to develop a harmonized personality. So this is the way to do it practically. You have heard about this ever since you were little, but we got to do this actively. Let me repeat it again. Right action, Right action means what is your duty, doing the duty, thinking about it before you're doing something, not afterwards. Am I supposed to get involved into something which I'm doing, or am I just unnecessarily getting involved? Right action. Devotion, love for God. Meditation, taking some time out, listening to God. Reflection can happen only when you study. And of course, satsang. Because the company we keep makes a big imprint on our chit. We don't even realize it. We don't even think about it. We start talking like the way other people are talking. We start doing what they are doing. So that's why the good association. You realize that relaxing the ego is not so difficult if you do all this. You begin to feel as if your spirit is a bird flying through the newly opened window of a cage. You feel free. You are free to soar beyond all limitations. But first, we have to do this. This is the homework we need to do. We got to change our lifestyle. That's why they say yoga is not just few asanas we do every day. You live yoga every part of your life, every minute of your life. So in daily life, we should be alert, not to let pride, conceit, and egoism become prominent. You must subjugate the promptings of ego day by day. See, just like a anger, we learned that we got to watch for it at the physical level, verbal level, mental level. The same thing goes over here too. Feel humbler than a blade of grass and yet mightier than a mountain, lesser than a little glowworm. See, at night, glowworm thinks that, hey, I am the one who's spreading the light. But in the morning, when sun rises, I'm sure glowworm becomes very humble. So lesser than a little glowworm, and yet more effulgent than the sun. Always remember, the flowers do not advertise their fragrance. The sun has no need to proclaim its luminosity by beating drums. The ocean has no need to sing the praises of its own profundity. The Himalayas have no need to brag about their heights. So the same way a true aspirant who unfolds the fragrance of virtue or unravels the luminosity of the spiritual wisdom and ascends the heights of superconsciousness has no need to indulge in pride or its numerous expressions. The higher we go, the more insignificant we feel. Because the significance of us is only of our ego. And this ego is the one which is really blocking the glory of God, keeping it away from us, feeling the glory of God. So egoism like a cloud which really hides the God within us. But by the mercy of true Guru, egoism vanishes. That's why these gurus, they have given us these sayings so that by remembering the sayings, by remembering these stories also, we know that how big of an enemy this ego is for us on the path of spirituality. And we got to always remember, everybody in this world is not God realized. There are material people also. So you can expect all kinds of behaviors from people. So that's why you got to become more and more tolerant. More and more tolerant. Higher you go, more tolerant you become, because you can see the whole picture more clearly. See, just like when you are away from the hill, you think hill is nothing. I am as big as the hill. But when you are getting closer to the hill, then you see that how insignificant, how small you are compared to the hill. So that's how the closer we go towards God, we see that how insignificant we are. And that's how we sublimate this ego, or we have a more control over this enemy, which is called ego. Okay, see, just like I told you last time also, these enemies are friends for a worldly person, but these enemies are real enemies for a spiritual aspirant. So we got to decide on which path we are going. Do we want to move towards the ultimate goal of our life, or do we want to just stay and come back here again and again in this worldly sphere? So if we want to move towards our ultimate goal, then we got to consider these as our enemies and conquer them with all these instructions which have been given to us by the saints. Okay, so now I'll stop 11:15. Any questions or comments? So we'll just do little dialogue.
I don't see anybody here.
Nobody's asking a question?
Oh,
Pramila has it.
I do have a question, Hershey.
Okay, I think Pramila has it also. Okay, Prem, why don't you go first? Yeah, Prem.
Okay, Ji, my question, actually, I've heard this many times. Blessed are the meek ones because they'll inherit the earth.
Yes.
What does this exactly mean?
See, what happens is, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. It's not a physical earth. It's really a kingdom of God. So they'll get closer to the Godhood.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what it really means.
Okay.
So because he is talking about the meekness, and that's why I mentioned the real meekness we are talking about over here.
Right. I know it's not the earth literally, but just. Okay.
So it really points to the majestic powers, godly powers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so it's not that a person will become a king, because this person doesn't even care for the earthly kingdom or earthly things. So it's really means oneness with the God.
You will have the divine qualities, divine powers, divine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank you.
Pramila?
Yes, Hershey. This part you said, art of difference from ego, subtle part of our personality. Could you please explain a little bit more about that? Acquired.
Yeah, see, it's like we got to remember these layers of our personality: physical personality, physical body, mind, intellect, and then the ego. Ego is so subtle. So that's why we need the subtlest art. And what is the subtlest art? When we meditate. To take care of the physical body, we can eat better, we can exercise, we can keep the body clean, we can go to the doctor, go to the gym, we can take care of it. That's at a grosser level. We know what we are dealing with. With the mind also, it's a little subtler than the body, but still not that subtle. We can control our tongue, we can control our environment, and sure, that will affect our mind also. Ego is the subtlest part of our personality. That's why it requires going away from this physical world. Meditation is the key. During meditation, we know that what is in our chit, in the deeper part of the mind. And we are really, that's why I said, in order to have control over our ego, we need to know what the subtle desires are, the vasanas are, because we are not familiar with them. We are familiar with the physical body, we are familiar with the thoughts, we are familiar with the ideas, we are familiar with all this, but we are not familiar with the very subtle desires of ours.
Mhm.
And in order to gain control over our ego, we need to know what those subtle desires are. And that comes up during meditation. It's very important to do meditation every day. Take some time out, just detach from this world. Totally detach from this world, physically also, mentally also, emotionally also. Go within and see what's in there. We are here to clean ourselves. Sure, we got to keep the outside clean because it does affect us. But ultimately, we are here to clean our inner part, which we brought with us in our karmasya. Okay, so this is the subtle part. So we got to do it seriously. Seriously, every day. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Hershey,
Nishta,
Hershey,
Nishta, you have a
Yes.
question?
Yes, Prem?
just a follow-up of the same thing you're talking about. During meditation, how do the vasanas and the desires show up? How do they show up?
Because they are inside you,
Yes.
they will erupt.
You mean you will have, can you give me an example of that, please?
Yeah. See, something happened in the past. It will come up like a visually also sometimes in your meditation. And then at that time, you got to attentively disown that. You are not that. You got to take your mind towards who you are. With the light, with the power of who you are, you detach from those visions or those thoughts. Because they are there. It's almost like if you are cleaning a carpet. From the surface, it looks clean, but when you start to clean, there's some underneath dust start to come up. What do you do with it?
You clean it.
You clean it and throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
You throw it away, right?
Yes.
Or if you're cleaning your fridge and you find something which is so rotten, what do you do with it?
You throw it away.
Throw it away. You recognize it's there, but you don't need it anymore. You throw it away.
So these vasanas are even from previous lives, right?
Of course, they're all there.
And they something visually happens. Would they show up like dirt and rottenness, or would they show up
Sometimes it could be rotten, sometimes it could be good. But you got to, at that time, you don't want to revisit it again. You don't want to get attached to it.
So then
That's why I said the reflection is very important too. So all of this go together. Okay.
So at that time, I tell myself, I'm not that.
Yes.
It's done with, it's over.
Yeah. You got to detach from that and take your mind towards the real you, who you are.
I see.
That will give you clarity. Okay? Yes, Jyoti.
Nishta has a question. Nishta?
Hanji, thank you, Jyoti. Good classes. I really like these. And Jyoti, thank you for recording them, because I sometimes listen to them later on, and it's really helpful that it is recorded. So my question is regarding possibly an earlier class, and I'm sorry I didn't ask the question before, where you talked about sort of lessening your load, the things we have and so on and so forth. So my question is, most of the things I have, there's a memory or somebody gave it to me or something or other. So when you're getting rid of it, I mean, I like to have things which, somebody gave me because they add more meaning. But when you're getting rid of it, isn't it somewhat like you're getting rid of that memory or that person?
Ultimately, we want to get rid of all of it. For the ultimate liberation, we need to. Right now, sure, we can choose between, if our mother gave us something, sure, you want to keep it. If your just casual friend gave, you want to get rid of it. Okay, so you can be selective, but for ultimate flight, you want to get rid of all of it. Okay.
My goodness. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because you choose. It's just like it's our own choice what we want to keep. Okay, but for the ultimate flight, no baggage at all. Only then we'll become one with our creator. Okay. Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Manju Malhotra.
Yeah, Namaste, Hershi. So the question by Prem about the vasanas coming up, the old impressions. Do you mean to say, like when we sit to concentrate or meditate, like attempt, at this point, all those thoughts keep erupting, right? You're supposed to have a conversation with God, and that's what you're sitting and trying to focus on that. But the thoughts that keep coming and all that, sometimes those are just your regular thoughts also, but sometimes out of the blue something showed up in your mind. Is that what you are saying, the old impression?
Yeah, those are the vasanas. That's like you were not even aware of it. Where did it come from? It came from somewhere.
Right.
It came
because
from
your mind was little
yes.
stiller as compared to usual.
Yeah.
And something just got hold of your attention.
Exactly.
Normally we would have forgotten about it. It's been forgotten for a long time, and it just out of the blue showed up.
Sometimes it happens in dreams also.
Right.
So where are the dreams coming from?
Old impressions.
Old impressions, they're coming. And sometimes we just want to rehash those again and again. We want to find out, what does it mean? Dreams are just dreams. So we shouldn't rehash them. Let them go. Let them go. Okay. These impressions, the sooner we become lighter, the faster and higher.
So the idea, when you say it's a cleansing of the mind, meditation, is it because you really took time to sit down and cut down many thoughts that no, I'm just going to have a chat with God, or just my quiet time, and then things surface.
Yes.
You just observe them, and then you realize over a period of time that so much of the stuff was there which you never thought of. Is that one way also to kind of you're calling cleaning?
Yeah, that's
because
right.
Normally if we went on with our day-to-day life like we do all the time, something all the time, mind is busy, body is busy,
and you're adding more. When you're busy, what you're doing is you're adding more. This way, you're not adding, and you are making a very subtle act of lightning.
Deleting it. Okay.
Yes, it just happens. You will see that when you start meditating regularly, you will see that it's really very natural. Actually, meditation is more natural than anything else we've been doing. We have to learn all that. This you don't even have to learn. All you have to do is just sit down and go within.
But Hershey, sometimes this meditation word itself becomes such a because you are really expecting like
No, don't expect anything.
a miracle to happen, and
No, miracle, there's
something
no
like
miracle is happening. Just remember, meditation word in Sanskrit is called dhyan.
yeah.
Dhyan, all you're doing is dhyan de rahe ho apne par. That's all. How difficult that can be. There's no magic about it.
Can I call?
Magic
Sorry.
will happen. You will see that how light you're gonna feel.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Can
feel
we-
all the frustration, all the anxiety, all the sorrow, they will disappear.
Right.
That is the
Yeah.
magic will happen. Okay, but start doing it. I always say that at least make
Try.
make a little commitment, not for the rest of your life, for next month. 30 days, I'm gonna do it every single day without fail. See the benefit of it. You will see that you'll tell others that please do it.
Yeah. Can we call it alone time?
Whatever you want to call it.
Would you call the same thing?
Yeah,
You are
alone
sitting
time,
down,
but
your
alone,
own alone
but
time.
alone time means only alone
Reflection.
for the Atma.
Yeah.
Okay? Because sometimes alone time people still have these with them.
What is that?
You're all familiar with that, right?
Oh, okay.
First,
No.
does your vasanas come out in action?
By the time they come to the action, they reach action, they have solidified.
They have solidified. Okay.
Yes. Okay. You want to dissolve them
Before it comes into action, you
before
want to
they
get rid
become
of it.
actions, because pretty soon when they become action, they will have a reaction.
Okay.
Okay? You don't want to wait for the action part. That's why I use the word right action.
Right action. Yeah.
Because those vasanas which are not very pure will definitely make you do the wrong action. And wrong action will give you the wrong fruits, wrong seeds. You want to throw them out.
So as the vasanas disappear or dissipate, your actions in life become less.
Right action,
Doing a lot.
the pure action. Yes.
You're not interacting. You're not.
Yes. And then ultimately they become nishkam karam, selfless karam. You will see as the vasanas are cleaning up or becoming less, your actions are becoming purer. And you don't even take the ownership on your actions anymore. Okay, so we don't want to stay under this that, oh no, my actions will show and then I will get rid of them. No, that is too late. It's almost like a seed is there and then you want to plant and you want to see what kind of a seed was that. The minute you plant, it will sprout, it will become a plant, it will become a tree, and before you know, because your curiosity is so much, it has become flowers and more seeds.
Okay, got it.
Got it? You don't want to wait for that. You want to, the minute you see the seed, because vasanas are the seeds, the minute you have the seeds, either you want to throw them away or you want to roast them. In meditation and in samadhi, what we do, we roast the seeds so that they lose the potency of sprouting again.
Okay.
That's what you are doing with the light of your own self. You are making those seeds infertile.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Because actions will make them fertile, I'm telling you. That's why so many people say, I did this action, that action. And it's just like the whole web of actions becomes so dense, it doesn't let you see who you are. Okay, so I would say just remember, right action, definitely. I'm not saying we should not do any action. Okay, action which I'm supposed to do, that we got to be clear about that. Devotion, love for God. If we don't have this devotion in our personality, ego is not going to go away. Because otherwise we are just loving our ego. Got to devotion, love God, meditation, reflection. And reflection, I told you earlier, you cannot reflect unless you study. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a part of it, reflection. It's a manan. And of course, satsang, good company. I mean, you know that even from this class of ours. I'm not saying we are saints or anything, but still we learn from each other, and it's like an association of good company makes us understand all this better, right? I mean, you all will agree this last 1 year, daily association has made a big difference. I'm sure I hear from all of you.
Yes.
This is a satsang.
Yep.
Sometimes we think satsang is only when we have a lot of music and a lot of people. No, satsang, just a right company with the right energy, some new good thoughts, which just gives you inspiration to do better, to think better, to move towards the right path. Okay, so 11:30. Anybody any question? After the bhajan, also I think today is Rita Chawla. I think, right? Rita is there.
Yes, I'm here, Hersh.
Yes, Rita, if you can sing bhajan for us.